This is Richard Worsham, founder and designer at Janus Motorcycles, and this is his Halcyon 250 number 68. He's ridden it across the US in 6 days, completed 2 1,000-mile rides in less than 24 hours, and it has been the test mule for new and upcoming Janus upgrades.
This started out as a 2017 Halcyon 250 demo bike here at Janus. So this was a bike that was used at least a year as a demo bike, and then I just took it on a lot of rides, and it kind of became my personal 250. I left my imprint on it, let's just say. Cream primary color, so the primary colors are on the fenders, the fuel tank, the airbox, and the headlight. And it has a single gold pinstripe, and it has the old Janus logo, our original logo that goes all the way back to the 50cc days. It has our original fenders, so these are roll-formed fenders. They were made up in Elkhart, about half an hour north of us. Of course, now we make our own fenders and they're much better. Well, this bike has been abused, let's just say, but we've also improved the way that we prepare the pinstriping, so you probably won't have this issue as bad on a more recent Janus motorcycle. This is the original motor. I don't think I've really replaced anything other than we have swapped out many components, and it's kind of the test mule for a lot of things. So I don't actually know what the mileage on the bike is because we've gone through, I think, at least 4 different speedometers. It originally would have come with a mechanical cable-driven speedometer. Then it went to a digital speedometer. Then it went to MMB, and then the most recent one. This is the first COSO instrument that we tried out. I think we're probably around 20,000 miles. Most of those miles are on trips because I live really close to Janus, and so I do ride it a lot. It gets a lot of riding, but I just don't tend to rack up miles unless I'm on the road. Probably the first big trip I did on this bike, and really when I kind of felt like I couldn't part with it, was when we decided to ride cross country. We were visited every year or so by a fully suited up Aerostitch climb gear BMW GSA rider who had stopped by the shop, and he had heard about us. And he was documenting the Wyman route, which is the route that George Wyman rode across country in 1903 when he was the first person to travel by motorized vehicle from one side of the continent to the other. So he started in San Francisco and ended up in New York. It took him about 50-something days, and he rode right through Goshen, Indiana. So he put up a plaque and was telling us all about it, and then eventually he suggested that we participate in a memorial ride that they do every year. And so I thought, okay, this would be a great way to test the bike, but also to prove what it's capable of. I don't think I had ever ridden more than 500 miles in a day at that point. And I quickly learned how to do that. Unlike George, who did it in 50-something days on a 225cc motorized bicycle, basically a California motorcycle, 1902 California bike. He proposed that we were going to do it in 6 days. We created the bike and sent it out to San Francisco to a good friend of ours, a moped parts distributor. He had it ready for me when I got there, and starting at Lotta's Fountain in downtown San Francisco, we rode as a group from San Francisco to New York. And in the process, they taught me all about long distance riding, something called the Iron Butt Association, that ride extremely long distances, typically by themselves. It's a pretty solo activity because it's very hard to, the way that you're pushing yourself in your machine, it's hard to coordinate that with more than 1 or maybe 2 riders. So rode cross country following his route, and here we got some stickers on here.
See the Iron Butt Association sticker.
Yeah, there's my mile leader. That means I've done more than one. And then here's the George Wyman sticker. Got a couple on there, and there's an Iron Butt. I don't have the license plate because it doesn't fit with my reflector, but you normally have a license plate that says World's Toughest Riders. Anyway, that's when I installed these panniers, was for that trip. They're easy to remove. Actually, let's just do it. Let's show you how easy. These are Tusk panniers. They're very heavy duty. You can drop them. I fabricated this bracket to mount them.
Well, now you might have people asking for.
Yeah, we don't sell these. Yeah, this is Richard Worsham fabrication, so it pretty much fits most of the time.
Pretty much fits.
I did not design anything. I just made it. But it's really easy to install. You can get these. This is actually a KLR kit I bought that I modified to fit fit a Janus. I also needed to have more fuel. The Halcyon only has about a 2-gallon capacity, and there were sections of the route that needed more. I needed to be able to go further, so I actually had 2 of these. So I have a different version of the Rotopack that you can stack 2, just in case. But Rotopack is a company that makes these. They're really easy to. You just turn it like that, and you have a fuel can. And I fabricated this. It just clamps onto the book rack, which is another upgrade we have on this bike. When I rode, I did have a wide line seat, this one. And I was recently detailing this bike and I found this underneath the seat. This is a map of the Black Hills from Sturgis last year. And,
so this has been out to Sturgis as well.
It's been, it's been in a lot of things. So it's been cross country, 6 days. It made, the bike had no trouble, I did. It was a pretty grueling ride. I think the top mileage day was 750 or 800 miles. So I had to catch up with all these BMWs. And then I've done around Lake Michigan, which is a saddle sore. It's 1,000 miles if you make the route right.
Yeah, what's a saddle sore?
A saddle sore is 1,000 miles in 24 hours.
Okay.
You can do a saddle sore on your own, but in order to get the recognition and the award, which is just a piece of paper, you have to document every fuel stop. When you leave, you have somebody sign the date, and then when you arrive, so you have to document it. And then I did one with, actually both those, Lake Michigan and here to New Orleans in 24 hours, did with a good friend of mine on another Halcyon 250. It's been to Sturgis, it's been to a lot of events. Probably the most interesting one recently was I took it down to meet with Paul Tuttle Sr. of Orange County Choppers fame. We're gonna be on an episode of his new show. I wasn't planning on showing him this bike. We brought a 450 and we were showing that off, and then I was talking about this and he goes, well, show me number 68. And so we rolled it in and spent quite a bit of time talking about this one. So it should be featured on Orange County Choppers, or Reborn, the new version.
Paul's new show, that's awesome.
Other upgrades, we got the headlight visor. We have LED lights, which is a recent install. Originally this had the LED, I think it was incandescent, and then it had the LED conversion, which we used to have. And this is the new full LED headlight. We've got, as I said, we have a book rack. We have brushed exhaust.
Brushed exhaust, bar end weights.
Bar end weights, yeah, these are the prototypes.
Nice.
And one single mirror. I usually have 2 on here. And
I think I saw fishtail.
Oh, and then, yeah, right before, the day before the rally last year, I love the fishtail exhaust, and I just never thought about putting one on here. This is actually another prototype, and I just slapped this on there. They're really easy to install, and I love the sound and the look, and they fit with the panniers. And it's pretty basic bike, really. I always tell people cream is it's not my favorite color necessarily, but it's a really good choice because it cleans up so well. This bike has lived a hard life, but all you have to do is just kind of wipe it down, and you if you line it up with a bunch of brand new Halcyons, you don't really know because the cream stays really clean looking. And of course the gold pinstripe can't go wrong with that. We've got the wide line seat, and this is a Alaskan leather sheepskin seat cover. It just it makes it more comfortable, and I actually used this for parts of the Iron Butt rides. I've upgraded when I do long distance riding. I use that Airhawk. The last thing I think we have on here is the Beeline. I don't actually have the unit on here. This is the Beeline navigation system. Visit our website, we sell these. Very minimalist. You don't have to have a giant GPS or phone mount on here. Just a little thing that tells you which way you're going. The only issue, this bike has had almost no issues. The main issue was when I was riding over the Sierras and I was really pushing it, because you imagine I had everything that I needed with fuel, and I'm a pretty big guy.
You were a little bit bigger.
And I was bigger then. You're right, yeah. And so I was really going over the Sierra Nevada, and I ran low on oil, and I didn't realize it. Then I just filled it up and kept riding. And so we did have to replace the counterbalance, one of the counterbalance bearings, definitely as a result of that. But I had put another like 10,000 miles on it before I had to do that. That was before it was right after we got EPA, around the time we got EPA certification. Mm-hmm. And so I added this phenolic barrier, which is this little plate here between the intake manifold and the cylinder, right there. And what that does is it insulates the intake from the heat on the cylinder, which in turn insulates the carburetor. Will actually, all that heat will this is steel, go right through and heat up your carb. And if you're trying to meet emissions, heating the carburetor isn't great because you're just off-gassing fuel vapor. Well, I did that, and I used the same bolts. And so they were gripping by like, 1 or 2 threads, and it came loose. Watch the video, read the blog about that experience. Totally my fault. Those issues are the only problems I've ever had with this bike. I was on a podcast last night, and I said, the number one thing the maintenance that I do is every year I'll do a valve adjustment. In recent years, I don't have to adjust the valves. They just are pretty much set, and I do an oil change. But the thing that always I forget to do and that makes the biggest difference is lube your cables. We had a little bike show in town last week, and Tim, our service tech, detailed the bike and tuned it up. And the first thing I noticed was, oh my goodness, cables are lubed. What a difference. So that's the main thing that I do on this bike is I lube. Make sure you remember to lube your cables and lube your drive chain. It's been a fantastic motorcycle. It's always gonna have a dear place in my heart. And I love that it has a sort of a utilitarian beat up look. I don't think I really ever want to touch up the pinstripe. I always say a motorcycle customizes itself as you own it. And I joke that some of that customization is when you drop it or you scuff it up or something happens to it. That's how you're leaving your mark on it. Actually, speaking of marks, check this out. I've worn through the powder coat. That's the aluminum showing through. So that's some of the patina I think that I just love to see on a bike. I think in recent years when people restore a motorcycle, they're starting to, it used to be that to get the most value out of a bike, you would strip it, repaint it, remake things, completely bring it back to exactly what you think it would look like. And you never really can do that because it's never made the same way as they make it in the factory. So I think in recent years, I've been really pleased to see that when people restore a bike, leave the paint the way it is. Because that's half the beauty of an old machine is when you realize that these are the marks and the wear that it's accumulated over time. Kawasaki used to, when they would bring demo bikes to a show, like a off-road bike, they would bring it with all the dirt still on it and I think that's just so cool.
I mean, so much of motorcycling is the storytelling, right?
It's the storytelling, and it's you using the bike
and
pretending like you brought it back to the original. I mean, there's nothing against like a beautiful full restoration. It's wonderful to see bikes brought back, but you got to balance it, I think, to get to really, because it's a story. It's all the miles, all the chipped paint go together to make the story of your experience with the bike, which is why we ride these things. We ride them because we want to experience something different that you just can't achieve with a car.
Do you have a favorite story or a favorite memory?
There have been some really wonderful rides I've done. My favorite is up in northern Michigan, M119, the Tunnel of Trees. There's a great video we did called the Janus feature list. I'm narrating basically a short essay, but it's set over the handlebars of this bike with 2 more Janus leading the way, and we're just bombing this beautiful road up in northern Michigan. I do that basically every year. I trailer this bike up with a couple of friends that we bring Janus up there and stop and get food on the way and ramble. Yeah, it's been 10 years since we launched this. This is the 68th bike, so we weren't building a whole lot of motorcycles when we first launched. It was very limited, and since then we've scaled up. So number 68 would have been 2017. So this bike is not yet 10 years old, but the 250 line is, and we're really excited to celebrate a model line that's been in production for a decade. And I think that looking at this bike should give you an idea of the way that we approach model years and the sort of war that oftentimes manufacturers get into this arms race of features and tech that they have to make it new for the next year because their competition is doing that. And our approach with Janus is the 2018 and the 2019 aren't really that different. The 2025 is more different. The fenders are different, but we just gradually improve them. So there's really not a whole lot of difference. It's just a gradual improvement. And as we do that, we really want to be able to offer the upgrades that we make now to all of our existing customers. So I want to say 98% of upgrades and options that we launch and that we will be launching will fit your 2018. As you can see, this has got a lot of newer upgrades. They're retroactively they'll fit back on older bikes. So I think that's the benefit. We don't want to change it a whole lot. We just want to keep refining a really good idea. And that's the Halcyon that started as a 50cc, then it became a 4-stroke 250, and now it's a 450. But the 450 has the same blood, the same DNA, the same design concept that we all fell in love with when we launched the Halcyon 50 in an era when cafe racers were popular. This is not a cafe racer. I'll let you decide what exactly the Halcyon is. Some people think it's a throwback to the 1920s, but it's got modern 12-volt electronics, disc brakes. Yeah, it's an interesting beast that we're really in love with, and we look forward to many more decades of production. If you're interested in learning more about the history of the 250 line in general and Halcyon 250 number 68, click one of these videos right here.